Hey, welcome to Bears Banter. My name is Bernard Muhammad. Alongside of me is Guy Moore, Tammy Harris, and Mike Quick Alton.
That'd be me.
Plank won't be able to join the broadcast today. I don't know if Jay can make it or not. I know it's Thanksgiving. Everybody out there, happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Gobble, gobble.
All right. Look like Mike grubbing down on some meals right now. Yeah, Mike.
White folks call it stuffing. I'm eating some dressing though right now.
Okay.
Some dressing, man.
Hey, you know, they was asking the Bears players yesterday, was there a difference between stuffing and dressing? And I say it is. Yeah.
Me too.
You say it is, Tammy, right?
Oh yeah, it definitely is. Black folks don't eat stuffing. We eat dressing, and there's a definite difference.
Yeah.
Okay.
Happy Thanksgiving, famo. Brenda, tell Regina and everybody God bless and happy holidays.
Brenda, today on the broadcast, we're posting up addresses for us to come by and get plates. That's what we do.
Right. So, a quick say, leave your address in the chat box. We'll be by there to pick up a plate. Hey, anyway, today the Bears win 16-14 against the Detroit Lions. I don't know if Club Dub is open again or not. Guy said it wasn't because it may be experiencing COVID protocol for low point output.
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah, hey, they say a win is a win, an ugly win is a win. But you know what? Who wants ugly wins all the time? I don't know, but that's just me.
With us, we take any type of W we can get.
I was close on the score though. I said 17-13. I was close.
You sure were.
All right. That's what's up.
Yeah,
I ain't got to ask you. I wouldn't even not even remember. I don't even have to ask whether you picked the Bears or not. I already know who you picked.
I picked the Bears, and I said that if they lost, I was gonna hop on a plane and show up at practice and kick somebody's tail. Because that would be ridiculous. I mean, the win was kind of ridiculous, but losing would have been even worse. I can't believe the way that they closed it out. It was such a sucker closeout.
Oh my God, it was like,
you know what, Tammy? I agree with you, and I know when you are struggling to get a victory, people kind of get conservative. But to me, that was a sucker move. I agree with you. You have about a minute and a half, or maybe a little bit less. You right there on the goal line. You got your veteran quarterback who you want to play the whole time. You got veteran running backs in there. You just gonna
kneel
the ball to the center of the field just to down it, you know, so you could just get in the center. I mean, run your plays. I mean, that's
I get not throwing it. I get protecting the ball, but you can't run it. Like,
right.
Well, there's two sides of this. You got one of the hottest kickers in the past couple of years. You only need a couple points, so you know, just get the victory and get out of there, because you done gave up 2 games the past couple of weeks that you could have won. So that was hopefully we can get Nagy out of here and move on to the next. That's what I'm hoping.
Okay, hey, we got another Facebook user that said a win is a win. My son Luke Mon says,
Luke Mon, what's up, boy?
What up? What up?
Jay Beasley.
What's up, Jay?
What's going on?
Stranger danger.
I had to run home. I had to run home and do the podcast. So
okay,
real quick.
We ain't gonna keep you long. We ain't gonna keep you long, Jay.
Yeah, we had too many people over.
Okay, so the final score ended up being 16-14. You know, a win is a win, but it was kind of, in my opinion, and y'all may feel a little different, it was kind of an uninspiring win because they struggled through most of that game, and this would make the 3rd straight game where the Bears offense was shut out in the first quarter. That's becoming a trend too, of not scoring in the first quarter, like they have a trend of not scoring in the 3rd quarter. And do you see the offense production? You could applaud Andy Dalton having 300 passing yards, but when it was all said and done, the Bears still ended the game with just 16 points of what they've been averaging all year. So all you did to me was just you didn't move your offense production. All you did was just shift what would have been passing yards, because I think the Bears rush. Montgomery had somewhere roughly around 48 passing yards rushing yards. All you did was just move those rushing yards under the quarterback. That's all you did. You ran less time, got less production out of the running game. The quarterback padded his stats, but when it all said and done, you still only had 16 points. What do you think, Jay, on that particular point as far as that?
Well, you stole my thunder because I was sitting there with my daughter, and she was like, she go to Ohio State. She was like, man, I would have left this game a long time ago. And I had to tell her, I was like, hey, they will score 49 points in a half in the NFL like that. But
oh my God.
You use the word uninspired, and that's exactly what it was. I mean, it was just bad football. It really was. Kudos to Andy Dalton for 300 yards, but I mean, most people throw for 300 yards on the Lions, so that's not a big deal. But goes back to what you said. We only scored 16 points, and 16 points don't win a lot of football games in the NFL. It really doesn't. You had a couple of standout people that played today. Komet, he played pretty well. Jimmy Graham sighting. And Darnell Mooney continues to shine, my boy. But again, they got away from running the ball. But they didn't have to because Andy Dalton did throw for 300. But again, it's uninspiring because you only scored 16 points.
Okay. Hey, Tammy, did you have, I know we kind of jumped into offense. What did you see from parts of the game that you were able to watch? I know it being Thanksgiving, a lot of people cooking, waiting, expecting guests to come over. What did you see as far as offensively from the Bears?
Yeah, like y'all, I don't just get to eat. I had to cook. So I was listening to the first part of the game. And I mean, it just sounded really, pathetic. And then when I actually did get to sit down and watch, it was just really disappointing, uninspiring. It was like, oh my God, like the mistakes on both sides. I mean, it wasn't a fun game to watch, all the way around. The offense was anemic, as evident by the 16 points that they put up. I get what, Mike is saying about, just wanting to get the field goal and taking the win. But I mean, you look like a complete punk. Like just kneeling. You first and goal, and you look like a complete punk, just kneeling with all that time left. I get, don't throw the ball, protect it, don't do a stupid thing and turn it over, but try to run it in, for God's sake. So that was just, and again, and it's not like you were doing it against like a scary team. You were doing it against Detroit. I'm like, it wasn't a fun game to watch. It was a pretty painful game to watch. The bit I did see.
Hey, Guy, what do you think about this game offensively as it played out?
Oh, yeah. I ain't even eat yet, and I got itis. That game was just miserable, man. And it was a sad thing too. Jared Goff was like 21 or 25. That's like, just like I said last week when we were talking about things with the defense and people down the defense. And I said, if we'd won, we had 35 points. They say something about the defense would be over with. Nobody's even mentioning out of 25 passes, he only missed 4. He only had 4 incompletions. That tells you a lot. But then some Bernard said, which was funny too. He said, man, he got these high completions because he's throwing these short passes. And I said, yeah, you get completions when the receiver's still on the line. So it was Mooney got his 123. He did good. But I mean, think about this though. With that last little montage where they took those knees, I took a whole different slant from it. For me, if I'm a player, I'd be pissed off. It's like, oh, so you don't have faith that we can't hold on to the ball and fumble? You can give us 3 damn downs. All I got to do is run a couple yards. You make it easier for the kicker. So what you're saying is you're afraid that we're going to get offside penalties or we're going to fumble. I understand what his reason it is, but we only had like 5 penalties. We didn't do too bad. But that's something that's great now. But it's going to be a whole different ball game if they play like that next week. And here's another thing that made me angry too, and people won't really think about it. Andy Dalton only got sacked once. You could say, oh, he got rid of the ball fast and all that, but look at a lot of times he passed. He kept Montgomery in the backfield. He had another back up there, and he had all that stuff. Don't be content because when Justin comes in there because he got legs and he don't need protection. And then the guys that you would have max protect for Dalton, you put on the line as receivers and they all running damn curls. It's the same damn thing. Just let them stand there and block.
Yeah, hey Mike, what did you see as far as offensively from the Bears today?
Nothing. I mean, you know what? Watching the Bears, not even just this week, but for the past 2-3 weeks, it's like you went to the senior citizen home and you waiting on two old people to try to get it on. It's like they gonna get there at one point, and they never get there. Dude, it's so bad, man. It's like you're sitting there like, dang, man, what the we you can tell. But going back to what we was talking about the knees, you got to realize one thing: we play the game to win the game, no matter what. Right? It may look like a punk move, whatever, but we got a punk team right now. I mean, it was funny because I laughed when Tammy was like, "What do you think we're gonna get an offsides? We normally do. I mean, this ain't not. It was unnormal for them not to jump outside and get in the damn knee. You know what I'm saying? So we play the game to win the game, no matter what you got to do to win the game. Because if you still go back, we had these couple explosive plays the couple weeks before, and we lost the game. But going in, we got Santo, who's one of the hottest kickers in the NFL in the past 2 years. You figure, hey, we can get out of here with a win. The only people that are mad who took the Bears with the 2.5 spread. Those are the people that are mad.
Right.
Yeah.
I wasn't one of those people. I didn't even get a chance to put a parlay ticket together. So I'm not mad. We got to win. We picked them to get, some of us picked 6 wins, 7 wins, 8 wins in the beginning of the year. We got to win. That's we need to build off of this because we gave 2 games away the past 2 weeks.
Hey, let me go with this right quick. In the game, Andy Dalton was 24 of 39 for 317 yards. His average completion was 8.1. He threw 1 touchdown and 1 TD. He was actually fortunate because they could have easily called some kind of pass. And I don't know what the play would have been. Mike would know better. But when the defensive player pretty much had that interception on that first drive, and the Bears player kind of yanked his face mask that made him drop it. You saw that play, Mike?
Yeah, the only thing they could have called was face mask because the ball actually hit the defender's hands. So once it hits the defender's hands, I mean, when the ball a passing play is called a loose ball play. So it's anybody's football at that time. So the only thing you could have called was a face mask. And he threw the ball right to the defender.
Yeah, he was fortunate on that one that the defender actually dropped that ball. But anyway, he didn't. So the Bears were able to get some points out of that. Jared Goff was 21 of 25 for 171 yards. He threw for 2 TDs. Dave Montgomery had 17 carries for 46 yards. A pedestrian 2.7 yards per carry. While we're on offense, let's talk about that a little bit. What's been going on with the Bears running game the last few games? Because none of these last few games have not been like blowouts. The game with the Ravens was only 13-16, and the Bears still rushed for under 100 yards. If you go to the Steelers game, that game was won in the last possession, like in the Raiders game, very close game. The Bears still was under 100 yards. Well, is something going on? Is it the blocking? Is Montgomery just not quite there? Because I don't believe they've had 100 yards rushing other than Justin Fields getting 100 yards since Montgomery came back. Is he going down too easy, or are the plays? I don't know. Did anybody have any opinion on that?
They've been playing some teams with some stout front sevens, though.
Yeah.
Against the Ravens, they tried to run the ball, but the Ravens, like I said last week, you can throw all day on the Ravens, but you ain't gonna run on them too much. Yeah. In Pittsburgh, the same way. So that's what that is. And then if you look at the stats, the carries from the running backs is decreasing, while the passes for the quarterbacks are increasing, which has Nagy's fingerprint all over this offense.
Exactly. That's what I was gonna say, and what the user just said. I was gonna say Nagy better calling the plays, and he don't like to run the ball.
Yeah,
That he does not.
What did you have something on that, Mike?
Yeah. Besides, well, it could be twofold. You know, he just came back from an injury, so they probably wanted to limit his production so that he doesn't get hurt again and try to build him back into the game. That could be one. Two, as Tammy said, Nagy's fingerprint is on it because the report came out that he's potentially supposed to be getting fired after the game. So who knows? He's like, hey, this is all I got. This is my one shot, and I'm just going to take it. But who knows? You know?
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I get that part, but 17 carries. I mean, he wasn't carrying the ball too many more times than maybe 4 or 5 more times. Maybe he was averaging maybe 21 carries, but 17 carries for 48 yards. I mean, you could stumble and get 2 yards. I mean, that's pedestrian.
I mean, yeah, but he had a leg injury, so
that's why my question is:
he's not cutting it sharp? There?
Yeah,
maybe not. I mean, you know, we all rush back to games, and you know, as long as we can, do whatever, we may not be 100%, but we get back out there and try to fight with the team. So who knows? He may not be 100%. He was getting more than that before.
Okay. Hey, looked like Darnell Mooney had a pretty nice game. I had his stats in front of me.
123 yards.
123 yards. How many catches did he have? Darnell Mooney had,
I think 5 or 6.
5 receptions for 123 yards. His long was 52 yards. Good production.
Yeah, I was about to say that a lot of that was on one chunk play though.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of that was A lot of that was on that one.
I think he had a 52 yarder and a 33 yarder. So that's if I'm right. Yeah. So if I'm right, that's almost 100 yards there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we seen a Jimmy Graham sighting today. He looked. Did he? I think he only made 1 catch though, didn't he, Jimmy Graham?
I think he had two and a touchdown.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because the other one was when he kind of like dove for the ball. That was a big catch right there too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it was good to see Jimmy Graham get out there a little bit more because he has not been really big. I know he was hurt a few games, and we saw some catches from Cole Kmet today. I actually seen a few times where I don't know what Andy Dalton was looking at, but it was a couple of plays. Matter of fact, one was a 3rd down play, and they didn't even stick Cole Kmet. And Andy and the guy who was closest to him was beyond the sticks. And Andy actually saw him, rolled out, still saw him, and for some reason he decided to keep the ball and run the ball and end up coming up short. So I don't know if that's a bad read on his part or what, but that's good to see Cole Kmet is getting some separation and making some of those catches. And, us even talking about the tight ends today of seeing the tight ends targeted. I think Jesse James, I don't know if he caught one today, but he was definitely targeted. So the tight ends was targeted in this game a little bit, which was a little bit different from what had been happening the last several games where maybe Cole Kmet might get targeted once or twice, and that was about it. But I still a little puzzled when they got in the red zone and they pulled Jimmy. Well, he was in one play in the red zone early on, and I believe that play that we're talking about that was almost resulted in an interception. I believe they was trying to target Jesse James on that play, and I think that's what happened. Hey, let's just jump over to the defense. Okay, the Bears. Did the Bears? I don't want to undermine what I saw, but did the Bears hold Detroit to 14 points, or this team offense is just as awful as the Bears offense that they just started shooting themselves in the foot? It didn't take much in my opinion, to hold them to 14 points. I mean, how many times in a game when the announcer said a team had 3rd and 32 twice in the same game? That's pretty awful.
And they were out there holding everybody, man. They just was holding that one drive. I think they had like 2-3 holds in a row, and they were bad holds. I mean, it was blatant. But you got to think about this too. They lost Swift early in the second quarter.
Yeah,
and that's one of their main players. So
yeah,
so I think And as bad as the game was on our offensive side, I think we may have scored more points with Justin. I'm just being, biased.
Okay.
Hey, you know what?
I can hear
AB.
you guys though.
Hey, I'd like to
AB.
welcome James.
What's up,
James
James?
Gilmore to the
Big
broadcast.
game,
James, how you
James.
doing?
What's up, James?
Hello, James.
I don't know if he's still.
Raise your hand if you can hear me.
Oh yeah, we
Yeah,
can
we
hear
can hear
you.
you.
Put your hand. Wait, clubbed
Yeah, I
up.
can
Put
hear
your
you
hands
guys.
up.
You can't hear us
I
yet?
heard you until I stepped in here.
Okay.
Let me
Hey,
exit and
Bernard.
come back in.
Okay. Got you.
Bernard, real quick about the offense, what kind of made me nervous is there's certain things that are supposed to be automatic. I thought all teams practice like silent counts, or I always thought that when you're on the road, it's going to be like a loud thing. There were about 5 or 6 times where I saw a couple offensive linemen. I don't know if it was because of the hearing or they just didn't know and they seemed confused. They would be down like this and they just keep doing this, like with 2 seconds left. It made me a little nervous, man.
They was going on the silent count a lot today, though. I don't know why, because it wasn't like Ford Field was packed. But
No,
they
it wasn't.
was going.
It just looked like the offensive lineman didn't even know what to do. He kept looking back like, we ain't practiced
No, that's
that
by
play last
design.
week.
No, that's by design. That is
Oh,
by
okay.
design. That
By
is
the
by
guy
design.
standing up, the offensive lineman stand up, turn around, looking at
Yeah.
the court. Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, that's by design. Because
Hey, Jay.
if you watch, once he do that, once he turn around and look at the quarterback, he sticks his arm out to the center, and that's when the center
Okay.
stops the ball. So they was going on the silent count.
Okay. I stand
Hey
corrected
Jay,
as you were.
Jay, with us talking about the defense, I know you had sent a text message in reference to Robert Quinn lining up
Where'd he go?
outsides quite often, but it wasn't called. Can you include that in your evaluation of the defensive performance today?
Man, what the? Oh,
Yeah, I don't get it, and I see why Robert Quinn get called offsides a lot of times, because if you look at him, he lines up
Offsides.
offsides. It ain't no because the bottom line is your helmet, and I know the blue line on our TV is the unofficial, but your helmet cannot be over the blue line. And if you look at him, I'm looking at this guy, I'm like, this dude is lining up offsides every time. But on the defense, no Kendall Vildor sighting today. It really didn't matter because Artie Burns just took his place and got burnt on that one play where he got turned around, where the guy caught the touchdown in the first quarter. Point tackling and Roquan Smith. Had Roquan Smith, when Roquan Smith got hurt and didn't come back in the game, you actually saw a difference on defense, because at that time the Lions just started gassing us. And the Lions were supposed to beat the Bears, but they shot themselves in the foot on that last drive when they had a false start, a holding, a false start, and it wound up being 32. That's what killed that. That's what killed the Lions. That was a drive killer, because they were in field goal range at that time, and with those penalties, it set them back, and they wind up having to punt, and they never really got in position again to even threaten.
Okay. Hey, I'd like to thank everybody who's watching us today on Facebook and YouTube. We really appreciate you taking some time out of your holiday to actually watch the show today. Hey, James, can you hear us? Okay. Hey, James, what's your opinion on the Bears defense today?
Well, first of all, I need to apologize to the people who I just left, who I was rude to while I was listening to you guys at dinner. Hey man, you know how it goes. I had to listen. I thought they played okay. It's kind of hard to say they did well because the Lions really didn't challenge them. So, all things considering, I would say they were okay. Burns got burned that first drive real bad. But other than that, I think they did okay. I can't say they did very well. They did okay. And I can't say they did bad. They just did okay.
Okay. Hey, quick, how did the Bears defense look today?
Man, don't even get me started, man. You know I'm not a big fan of the Bears defense, but I do got to give credit when it's due. Roquan Smith shows up week in and week out,
Yes, he
and
does.
just balls out. I seen one play today where the Lions were close to their own goal line, and Roquan attacked. That was the one where he was holding on to the guy's leg, but he had went through 2 or 3 people to even get to the guy.
Right.
I mean, he's a monster, man. We got to do everything we can to keep him. I mean,
Yes.
he defines Chicago Bears defense. Now the rest of these dudes, I was sitting here when they played Pittsburgh, and I was like, man, the refs are being ticky-tacky on Robert Quinn, where he's lining up at and all that. I'm like, but you consistently get that same penalty? Right, dog, man. I mean, like, when he got the penalty, I was like DJ Khaled, another one. Like, man, dude, you it's so easy when you line up as the receivers and the DBs do. You can look at the referee and ask him, "Are you good?"
Right.
It's too easy.
Right.
But you consistently get the same penalty. That's the definition of insanity. Yeah, that's all I got, man. That's just we need
defense today.
Well, I mean, the little bit that I saw, I wasn't impressed. I missed the whole first half of the half because I was still cooking. But I didn't see anything.
She keep throwing that in there because I was cooking.
No, I'm just saying. I was listening, but y'all know listening ain't the same as watching. I can't fully connect what's going on when I'm only hearing what's going on. But I mean, I would just agree with James. From what I heard, they weren't horrible, but they weren't dominant either. I mean, the Lions were kicking themselves in the foot with penalties, and they hurt themselves probably more than the Bears defense hurt them. I would say the Bears defense didn't get a lot of the dumb penalties that they were historically getting. So in that sense that they were good. But I mean, I don't think the Bears defense had to do that much because the Lions were doing it to themselves.
Okay. Hey, Guy, what did you see from the Bears defense today?
Well, let's look at it from a number standpoint. They gave up 14 points. So no matter if it was the Lions or the Steelers or the Eagles, I'll give them credit because they gave up 10 less points than they normally do. So I give them a plus for that. Problems that I had with defense and special teams, just like me and you, Bernard, we running. I'm like, I'm thirsty. Here, run next to Bernard. Here, give me the stinks. We running side by side instead of trying to tackle the guy. The guy's running the ball. He like running with him like this. I'm like, tackle the damn dude. That's one problem I have. I'm not gonna beat him up as bad, but Roquan Smith, man, the thing is, this is what I always talk about. Eye test and not always trust the numbers. He had 3 tackles with 3 solos, but his fingerprints were all over the field today. It's like that dude, they was like, man, I don't care, man. Y'all give up 15 yards, but 2 dudes better knock Roquan Smith down because that dude is a monster, man. But yeah, Burns got burned. He only had 2 tackles. I'm not going to dog him out as bad, but we got to stop doing that damn guy throws a ball to a receiver and the guy catches, and instead of trying to knock his block off, you're going to run about 5-6 yards side by side, see if he's faster than him. Or these little arm tackles like this. Now, one arm tackle on like the 2-3 yard line, I can't remember who it was, that spun the running back off, and they were able to kind of close in and knock him down like the 2 yard line. But that arm tackle stuff, and that stuff's got to stop, man. But they didn't do it as bad as they could have.
Okay. Yeah, Roquan is a very violent tackler. I love that. Hey, let's look at the standings as far as us on the broadcast. Guy is 8-3. I'm 7-4. Jay is 7-4. Quick 7-4. Plank 4-7. Tammy 4-7. Hey, James, do you know what your standings are?
He said no.
I'm busy trying to dodge alligators out here, man. I don't know.
Who did you pick this week?
I had the Lions.
You had the Lions.
Oh, then I think he 8-3 then now. I think
8-3.
You would have been 9-2, I think.
Okay. Hey, without we're not going to ignore the elephant in the room. Is this week there was a report that broke that Matt Nagy will be fired after this game. Do y'all think there's any validity to that, or do you think a victory in this game changed that? I see Jay nodding his head. What do you say, Jay? Is no validity to it?
There ain't no validity to that, man. Come on. How do you tell a coach, we're going to let you coach this next game, but you're fired afterwards? That don't even make sense. If you're going to fire somebody, you're going to fire them. Matt Nagy is definitely going to be fired at the end of this season. But when that report came out, I'm like, there is no way you're going to tell a coach. You're going to call a coach in your office and you know what? Since it's a short week, we're going to let you coach Thursday, but you're fired after the game. And this win right here he don't get to keep his job because of this. It's just the inevitable is going to happen, but it's not going to happen to the end of the season. No validity to that kind of report. And if that was to actually happen, it would really show how dysfunctional it is at Hallis Hall.
Exactly.
I'm gonna tell you a story, Jay. I was talking to him about it off camera. When we get off camera, I'm gonna tell you something that I heard some years ago about that whole situation. And I don't think so either, man. You know what? I think because Nagy hangs out with too many black people. You know how a black person is. If you come to one day working, like, look, man, we ain't gonna need your services, but we gonna need you to come finish this project. And after that, you fired. Black folks ain't gonna even show up for work. And they probably was like, you know what? He know too many black people, so we ain't gonna do it. But no, seriously though, I since 1920 they haven't fired a coach in midseason, and with the dysfunction in Hallis Hall as far as George McCaskey and Ted Phillips, I still think that streak is gonna go on, man. So when he gets fired, it's gonna be at the end of the season.
I do have one question.
I
have one question.
Bernard, we can't hear you.
We can't hear you, Bernard. B.
Bernard.
Okay.
Can
y'all hear me now?
A little bit. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I was sorry about that. I don't know why I went mute. But also remember, a guy that 50 of those years, George Hallis was the coach. So
right, you couldn't fire him.
Right, he was gonna fire himself. Well, I guess he did eventually fire himself, but he wouldn't have fired himself mid-season.
So another 51 years.
Yeah. So we got two people that say there's no validity to this story. Hey, James, what do you think? Was there any validity to the story?
No, it was no validity, but because I knew the story was crap. In fact, I had jumped on WSCR before the press conference and after the press conference, even given any credibility to the story. But I have a question. Why did George have to address the team to tell him that it was not true? Isn't that your GM's job?
Well, it kind of goes with the story. I'm going to tell you something. People don't understand the fingerprints that Ted Phillips and George McCaskey got on football decisions. It's a lot deeper than that, man. I'm just going to leave it at that.
Yeah, because the bottom line is,
my point is, what is Ryan Pace doing?
Whatever. What Ryan Pace is, he's trying to be a general manager, but with most teams, when their general manager's job is to run an organization, to run the football operations, his whole thing is he can come up with an idea, but he got to check in with Ted first.
You know, I don't like how Ryan Pace has always been quiet during the season. I mean, you don't have to be out front all the time, but Ryan Pace never says anything during season. So that is a little odd that
it's by design.
That he didn't say anything at all about the story, but George.
I would rather hear from George. I would rather hear from George, who's actually the owner of the team, versus the GM who might get fired as well. So I'm okay with George coming out like, hey, it ain't no validity to this. That's just my opinion.
I hear some feedback. Hey, Mike, do you think any validity to the story?
Well, I believe there's validity to the story, but I don't believe that he will be fired right now. The story came from somewhere. You know, the story didn't just fall out the sky from somewhere, but there's somebody that said something and they ran with it. But I don't think he's gonna be fired in the middle of the season. We really don't gain much by doing that because you have to bring in an interim coach. You really don't gain too much by doing that. But if he's not fired at the end of the season, there's a problem.
Oh yeah.
Okay. What about you, Tammy? Did you think any validity to the story at all?
Of course he did.
No. As much as I want him gone, I didn't think that the story necessarily had validity. I wish the Bears would actually fire him in season so that people can stop saying that it's something that they won't do. Because I don't think you're hurt or helped necessarily by doing it, but I think that it sends a message. And I remember one time when I became a manager, we were going into year end and I wanted to fire folks, and I was a new manager, and the CFO was like, well, you're about to go into the end of the year. You can't fire people. I said, I'd rather have nobody than anybody. Because and in some cases there are times that you can have a cancer on your team, and the longer you let that cancer stay, it takes longer to feed it out. Now, don't get me wrong. I hope that Nagy gets it together eventually. I hope he takes this as a learning lesson. I really do. And that he comes back and becomes a great head coach like Bill Belichick did. I don't know if he has it in him, but I know he's not ready now. And I actually think that even though it wouldn't help necessarily their wins and losses, I think it would help the morale of the team. I think it would change their mindset. I think. I could be wrong, but I think that it would put them in a different state of mind in order to go out there and play differently. And I just believe that.
Hey, Bernard, what about that other elephant in the room where the rumor is when they were talking about the players are kind of saying on the low that Nagy's lost the team, that they were trying to say on the low they think it was Allen Robinson.
Oh, yeah, I heard that, sir. Hey, James, I have you on mute. Just kind of like raise your hand when you want to talk. I'm getting feedback from your mic. It took me a while of muting people's mic to see who it was, but it looked like I'm getting feedback to your mic. So when you're ready to talk, just kind of raise your hand. That way I'll mute you. Okay. Oh, yeah, that's a good point about Allen Robinson. And in reference to that story, I don't believe the Bears going to do anything in the middle of the season, but I do think this is the NFL are now allowing you to interview coaches in December versus where you used to have to wait to the playoff. What the Bears don't want to do, to me, is do what they did the year that they hired Ryan Pace. That's what you don't want to do. You fired your coach and general manager the same year, but you went and got and identified your coach first. And if I remember correctly, the same day you was bringing in Pace for an interview, maybe the final interview, you was announcing that John Fox was going to be your coach. The Bears do have to decide if they're going to, even though the season is still going on, they got to decide if they're going to bring Ryan Pace back first. And then if they're not going to bring him back, you might as well fire Ryan Pace as soon as you can, because you need to get it out ahead of the general managers and letting prospective general managers know you have a job opening. So when they come interview with you, they start throwing ideas out to you of if they want to keep Nagy or if they want another coach and who they may want. That's just my opinion. But what you don't want to do is you fire both of them in January, and then now all of a sudden you're behind the 8 ball trying to hire 2 people. And while you're trying to interview the GM, at the meantime, good coaches are getting gobbled up because you're still trying to identify the general manager that you need. Jay, you look like you had something to say about that. Let me pull you up, Jay.
No, I was just saying, I mean, you're right about that. But to me, I think if you fire Nagy, you got to fire Pace too, because the bottom line is it's got to start over. It's got to start over. And I think the job is an attractive job because we got Justin Fields. So you're going to have some people that's going to want to come here and be a part of that. But I don't want Ryan Pace to have to hire another coach because it hasn't worked out. He did 3 years with Fox, and which Fox was given to him, I understand. But that was three years of terrible football. Then you got Pace. Pace had the excellent year, coach of the year. Ryan Pace won executive of the year in 2018. All those things were good, but it's been nothing but downward since then. You know, Pace has given up all our draft capital. You know, we got some bad contracts on the book. So if we're gonna fire the coach, we might as well fire the general manager too.
Okay. Yeah, let me ask this quick question though. When you're looking at this, you have with the Bears organization, you have a lot of guys who have minimal, if any, football experience, right? And so how do they get to evaluate talent? You have the scouts that are out there, but Ryan Pace, if you look up his football background, I think Ryan Pace He played at Eastern for a minute. But if you look at his football background, how does he even know how to evaluate talent to say this is the guy we're going to go after to bring in to, kind of rewrite this ship in this franchise? I don't think he has it. And Ted Phillips.
Now don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. Pace, I think he's qualified. I mean, because he spent a lot of years under Mickey Loomis in New Orleans, learning the job. So it ain't the fact that I don't think he's qualified. I just think with this organization and with the state, because when Ryan Pace came in, this organization was, I'm talking about under a rock. So he did do a lot to get us back to where we got before he was here. Because before he came, who was it? Phil Emery and Tressman, them 2 years we had with them after Jerry Angelo left. They turned this franchise totally upside down. So Ryan Pace had to come in and turn it around. And I think he did an excellent job. But I just think at this time, because of the situation that he's put us in, he's kind of wore out his welcome with the fans, giving up a lot of draft capital, and now the hire.
That's my thing, Jay. You can't say the man did a terrible job in the draft, gave up all the draft capital, and then say he did an excellent job. That don't go together.
But he did. He won Executive of the Year in 2018. So it ain't like he's done a lot of things bad.
I won Freaknik Participant of the Year in 1994.
Hey, James. James, I know you were. James, I know you were on the show last year when they had the press conference announcing that they was going to retain Ryan Pace and Matt Nagy, and you were on the show at the time when that happened. I mean, do you still feel the same as you felt that day, or you even have, a little bit more like they need to go? I mean, what? I know I asked you this earlier, but I want to see what's your opinion.
Yeah, I feel stronger that they need to go. I mean, I think Pace has had enough time to show his track record, and his track record is not a good one. Okay, his best draft pick to me has been Roquan Smith. Okay, he acquired Khalil Mack, but he gave up a whole lot. And I think if you look at the credits and the debits, there's a whole lot of debit, not a lot of credits. So yes, I think he needs to go. I think the day after the season, he needs to be gone. In fact, forget getting rid of Nagy, get rid of him first.
Okay, so with this victory against the Lions, nobody on the panel has changed their mind about Nagy or Pace going. None at all.
No.
Okay.
You know what? A lot of Pace going. If Pace does go, you know what? And I'm gonna say this: I would be shocked if Pace goes. Not to say he did a bad or good job, but with the way Bears have done business throughout the years, they're into this whole loyalty thing. And sometimes what happens, we think of some things like they just got a stadium and they probably won't move there for 10 years or whatever it is. So right now is not the glaring point. If we were like a year or two removed, I could see it. But with this train wreck that we deal with the Bears, in order to right the ship, Phillips has got to go. Unfortunately, I don't think he's going to get fired. His contract is up in 2023. They're going to probably let him retire. But as long as you have a person who knows absolutely nothing about football having his fingerprints over a whole lot of stuff, and when stuff goes wrong, it's like, hey, it's your fault. But when it goes right, hey, this is great. Until he goes, if we have a winning season and we do well, it ain't going to be because of him. It's going to be because of osmosis. But until he leaves, it don't even matter if we kept both of them or not. It's going to be the same thing.
So, hey, real quick, I know we're going to try to close this out. I know with the holiday, I don't want to keep everybody long. So let's get some grades on the coaching today. I give the coaching today a C. Jay, what do you give the coaching today?
C as well, on all phases.
Okay, C in all phases. And quick, how do you grade the coaching today?
I don't like the coaching. Oh, I'm sorry. the coaching is, man. If we would have fired Nagy right after the game, I'd have gave the coaches an A. But watching these two old folks try to get it on, I got to give them a C too because they never connected.
Hey, Tammy, how do you grade the coaching today?
The little bit that I saw, or the half that I saw, I'll give him a C, but I don't know. I feel like I would give him lower if I saw the whole game.
Okay. Hey, Guy, how do you grade the coaching today?
I give him a lower score, but the only reason why I'm not is because it's Thanksgiving and we have a lot to thank for.
Let's see. Hey, James, how do you grade the coaching today?
They won, so I got to give them a C.
Okay, you give them a C. So next on the next game up, I believe, is against the Phoenix Cardinals. Is that the next game?
Arizona Cardinals, yeah.
Arizona, I'm sorry. Yeah, Arizona, I'm calling Phoenix.
It's the same place.
Ooh.
Yeah, same place. That is a home game, right?
Yep. Yes, it is.
It's the Phoenix Cardinals.
So we'll see what happened. This is going to be a challenging game for the Bears. To me, this is going to be one of those games when you see it, can you say the Bears defense is good or not? Because now we're back to playing quarterbacks who can play. And I'm a firm believer. Well, what I've seen this season is we done lucked up. We done played a lot of mediocre quarterbacks this year. And today's game, what was kind of a feeling I had in this game was as I watched it, it reminded me last year when the Bears were in their 5-game losing streak. On game number 5, they played Detroit. And that game ended somewhere where Allen Robinson, I think, bagged out of bounds or something. It came up short of the first down. And that game ended up being, I believe the final score was 34-30. And the Bears ended up extending to the 5 I'm sorry, that was the 6th game. That was the 6th game that extended their streak. Then the next week they came out of the losing streak by playing Houston. But this game almost had the feeling of that game at some point that it was going to almost play out like that game, because that game was, even though it was more scores, there was a lot of mistakes by both teams, and neither team seemed like they wanted to grab that victory. And today's game, it was kind of playing out like that because it took the Bears into the second quarter just to even get a touchdown. And then they missed the field goal, and then they only up like 13-7 or whatever.
13-7 at halftime, yeah.
Yeah, and you thinking like, man.
So they only scored 3 points in the second half.
Right.
It was 13-7 at halftime.
They got 9 first downs. 9 first downs, and 8 of them were for passes.
Yeah, that's not inspiring when you're about to play a team like the Cardinals, where the quarterback is definitely going forward. But that's a Sunday game, right? Was that?
Yeah, but the thing about that game is they're the Arizona Cardinals. It's Chicago, and it's going to be in December, so it might be a little chilly on the lakefront. So if things happen in December when teams have to come to Chicago and play. So I mean, so we'll see what happens. And Arizona hasn't been playing that all that well either.
Yeah, they've been slipping the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, they've had some injuries though.
Even before Kyler Murray got injured, they wasn't really playing well.
No, they got some defensive guys that's injured because their defense is actually better than what it was last year. So their defense was a monster when the season first started. They had some injuries though.
What's their record this year?
I want to say they 8-2.
8-2, something like that.
Better.
I want to say they 8-2 or 7-3, something like that. They're like the top 5 in the NFC. I do know right, but anything's better than the Bears right now.
Yeah, matter of fact, Kyler Murray hasn't played in the last 3 or 4 games.
Last 2 games.
He missed 2 games.
The last 2 games. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, what you had, James? Looked like you wanted to say something before we end the broadcast.
I said, yeah, you guys convinced me. I get Arizona by 21.
Hey, you got to give up that hat, James. It's a little too fly, man. It's a little too fly, man. You have to let me borrow it.
The Bears.
So, hey, we'd like to thank everybody who tuned in today to Bears Banner on Facebook and YouTube. If you have not subscribed to us on YouTube, please hit the subscribe button. If you're on Facebook, please join Bears Banner Talk Group. Also, we thankful for those who tuned in today. We know it's a holiday and everybody's celebrating a holiday. Anybody got any closing points before we end the show? Because Bears Banner is where real fans come to have real talk.
Hey,
any other points?
I do.
Happy
It's the
Thanksgiving,
best.
go.
I'm sorry.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Yeah, right. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
Hey, I just want to send a shout out to my boy Josh that just added. He's like our security in my building, and he's like more like my therapist as well too. And it's like when I come to work and I walk through and he watches the games, he look at me, and it's almost like, man, come on, you need some intervention. So shout out, happy Thanksgiving, y'all. Be well, be blessed.
Okay.
right
Oh yeah,
there.
and
Fire
also
Nagy.
on Monday, don't forget to watch Tammy's show, which is Natural Vibe. Also, I want to send a shout out to my boy Kofi on his show, KO Sports. I'll be looking forward for your show, and also shout out to Give and Give. What is it? I got to get the name right,
Give and
but
go.
I'll get it
Is it
right.
Give and Go?
Give and Go with Dante Williams and his brother. They talk about basketball. But anyway, everybody enjoy their holiday. Peace.
Happy birthday.